Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? It's the Live Reality Games Podcast. I am Daniel Ball, and I'm here with the man himself. Been waiting. Steven, how we doing, man?
Doing well. Just back from Washington, D.C. It was an exciting week taking students to tour the Capitol, but who cares about that? I'm here to talk about Survivor.
Survivor it is, man. And what an episode. Let me ask you. We're now 5 episodes in, and where would you rank this season as far as entertainment, a good season, the best of the new era? What's your thoughts on that whole perspective?
I mean, I'm easy to please. Any Survivor makes me happy. I've enjoyed the fact that all the tribes are going to tribal council. We're coming into the mergatory, fairly even across the board. There's cracks in every tribe. So overall, I think this is a good beginning. And it's hard because I feel like so much of how we evaluate season is by the ending.
Yeah,
we're gonna basically look at the winner and look at the merge. Say how was the season overall? It's hard. It's hard to say best ever after 5 episodes, but this has been a good 5 episodes.
I agree. Obviously, just a lot of the things that you were saying, just there's some balance. There's good gameplay mixed with bad gameplay. There's idols that are found. There's idols that have been used. There's idols that have been used for no reason. And there's currently a new little twist that we'll get into a little bit with this episode. So a little bit for everyone. And I mean, I'm not gonna bash it. I think I'm not gonna complain. I'm like you, like give me more, and I'm good. Just give it to me, and I'll be all right. So where we left off last episode, Keyshawn gets blindsided at the tribal. That leaves Lavo with Rome, Teeny, who has one piece of an amulet, Genevieve, and Saul. Gata with Sam, who has a hidden idol that's good for only one tribal, and we'll get into that. Sierra, Andy, who has one piece of an amulet, Rachel, and Annika, who doesn't have a vote at tribal. And then in Tuku, you got Gabe, who, if I'm not mistaken, he has an idol.
I don't think so.
He played it last week. Yeah, he played it last week, and he didn't need to. Sue actually now has an immunity idol, which she found last week with the blood and all that nonsense. Caroline has one piece of the amulet, Kyle and Tiana. So that's kind of where we're at currently going into this episode. And the episode opens at Lavo Camp, which there's a lot going on at Lavo Camp. There is a ton. Teeny's obviously upset at Keyshawn. Her number one was voted out, and she feels as though she's kind of in survival mode. Genevieve, Steven, is kind of talking Teeny off the ledge. She's like, no, man, you'll be fine, because believe it or not, Rome has no choice but to work with you, because he doesn't really want to work with Saul, even though Saul last week decided he was going to try to make something work between them. So, Teeny eventually apologizes to Rome for not telling him that he was the plan, but she felt as though she didn't have a vote, so like she couldn't really do anything. But Rome kind of felt betrayed, as though like, if you're part of this, then you should have told me something, and she never mentioned it. Rome obviously appreciates the apology, but he knows he's not going to trust her moving forward. And I brought this point up last week, Steven, and I'll ask you, is Teeny trustworthy?
I think Teeny is trustworthy if you're in their core alliance. I think if you're not in Teeny's core alliance, then I think you are liable to be blindsided by Teeny. I mean, have you seen Survivor Pennsylvania Gettysburg by any chance?
I have, yes.
Okay, and it's a fascinating case because you see Teeny go to a lot of early tribal councils. It's really good to see. Teeny is a social player, is really good at like dodging, weaving, going deep, but like. So yeah, I think if you're a Keyshawn, yes, you can trust Teeny implicitly. I think if you're not Keyshawn, then I think it's gonna be really hard to. And Keyshawn's gone, so I don't know where Teeny's gonna go from here.
Yeah, I just feel as though so far Teeny has, as a viewer, what I've seen, Teeny hasn't done in this I don't want to piss off the LRG community, but because I know how they feel about Teeny, but Teeny hasn't done anything to earn trust, in my opinion, because there's been multiple times where she was told something or saw something, and then she immediately went and told someone else.
Well,
And then
this is mainly with Rome, right? Rome
yes.
puts trust in Teeny, Teeny burns Rome. Rome puts trust in Teeny, Teeny burns Rome. And you hear from the confessionals, Teeny is not excited to work with Rome. Rome is not high in Teeny's to work with list.
And so here we are again, where she doesn't say anything, and I think secretly she wants to burn Rome. And I think long story short is I think Rome knows that, and knowing how Genevieve and Teeny feel about Rome, is Teeny really sorry for what she did, or she's just doing that to save face?
I think she's sorry that had she known that Keyshawn was going to get kicked out like that, she would have flipped on. She would probably have done something differently, like told information. I think she's sorry that at least she didn't vote against Rome, because that would be an even bigger disaster. It was like kind of good she had no vote in this case, but
yeah, I think if she did have a vote, she would have voted Rome. I think that's how it would have went down.
Or she sees Keyshawn's vote get stolen and she changes her vote and votes Sol.
Yeah, maybe. So that's the beauty of the game. I mean, having to adjust on the fly, and the unknown and unknowable, having to navigate that. But we get a really badass drone flyover of the challenge field, and immediately the players, you hear them chirping about there's only space for 2 teams. There's a blue and a yellow team. And so then we find out that there's a new survivor twist. It's this is a reward challenge. So the twist is that they're going to do a schoolyard pick. They're going to do just a random rock draw. And if you have a blue rock, you're on the blue team. If you get a yellow rock, you're on the yellow team. And really, the winning team gets to go to the sanctuary, and they get to socialize, which is something that we haven't seen in past Survivor shows, especially pre-merge. They get a chance to intermingle tribes, just them, and kind of spill the beans and kind of see what's going on and kind of play it out, but also kind of try to build some relationships and connections. So the question I have for you first, what do you think about this twist?
I like it. I think it's a fun kind of reward to have and to create an opportunity for people to come together to talk for cross tribe lines, especially as you are getting close to mergatory territory. Then magic number 13, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I think it's important at this point, like you said, knowing that the merge is upcoming at some point. Either soon or elimination or 2 later, you're going to see a merge, and having
it cracks me up because in live games, you never know when merges. Is it 13? Is it 9? I don't know. And sometimes you have a really small merge. You really go down the wire versus Survivor. The TV show loves large merges. You can kind of just view 13 as the number.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to is they hope to have a odd number so that it makes winning and losing an easy thing. It's 9 is fine, 11 is fine, 13, I guess, to me, I think 13 is too many, but that's just my opinion. But either way, I mean, they know that a merge is coming, so they know that this is going to be a beneficial situation if they win. The blue team consisted of Annika, Sol, Rome, Genevieve, Sierra, Andy, and Gabe, and then they were the blue team, and then the yellow team was Sam, Teeny, Rachel, Sue, Caroline, Kyle, and Tiana. Teeny being the only Lavo member on that yellow team, they, do the challenge, and it's basically shooting basketballs in a hoop is what it came down to. And some made it look easy, and some made it look hard.
It's a fair distance. That was approaching more than a 3-point shot.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that I looked at and I go, all right, it's looked easy, but then as I saw them trying to like heave the ball, I'm like, all right, it looks like there's some distance on some of these shots. And like, what is this ball made of? Does it bounce? Is it hard? Is it heavy? Like,
It looked like
what
a
is
handball almost.
it? Did. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the weight and all that, but it definitely wasn't as easy as I thought it was initially. But the yellow team ends up taking it down, and so they get a chance to go to the sanctuary. So I'll pick up at the sanctuary. And first, Stephen, I'm not a proponent of the sanctuary. I just think it's really, really cheesy. And like, what are we doing? And obviously, old school Survivor, you go on these excursions and these things, and they're so elaborate and they're so cool. But then when you move to Fiji, you're kind of limited to the space that you have and what you can do. So I get it, but you're not gonna win me over when you give the players their hot dog and there's no condiments and it's like the worst looking hot dog. There was, and that was probably better than the regular hot dogs, but it just to me, like, how do you like what's the alternative to the sanctuary? Because I know they got to have
it's the reward. The food is a reward. The social hour. What's the reward here?
Right, right. That, and I think that became like the byproduct. Call it what it is. It's a happy hour. Give them a couple of drinks and like let them socialize and like let's do like let them feel a little loose and like get crazy. But like giving them a hot dog with no mustard, no ketchup, and some sodas that are in glass jars, like come on, man.
Say soda,
yeah.
So you know it's soda.
Right. So like give me a break. We can do better than that, Jeff. We can do better than
I think this is more of modern Survivor really wants to starve and beat up the players. That's why the rewards are small and pitiful early on. And so like them getting exactly a hot dog with no comments seem fitting for what they want. And besides, because next round is the Mergatory, right? And seven players will have like 6 to 7 players will get legit food. Right, and so I don't think they're looking to spoil them now, and because they want that to mean so much more.
I also think they're going to do Survivor auction again, and I think you don't want to take the emphasis off the food part of the Survivor auction and have a lot of elaborate food now.
I mean, and to be fair, like you just need to wait 6 days for the auction, and everyone's gonna be starving again. It's like you don't need to do much.
Don't forget, we might have a rice bag that we take a knife and we just cut it, and they have to make a decision on rice. So that's probably out there at some point.
Is that final 9 or 10? I can't remember when Jeff likes to do that.
Have to.
It's like day 20.
It's definitely merge, and it's definitely like I would say it's into the game where you like it's a big deal to have rice or not. So.
I mean, can I just skip to the eggs?
Oh,
so
God.
like when we saw that Gata got eggs and Gata had no fire because they didn't make it this morning, could they have just brought the eggs to tribal council, like in the pot, put it in the fire tribal council, and boiled it and cooked the eggs right there? I don't think Jeff would have stopped them if they had done that.
We've had one. There's been one episode where they used the fire for something. Was like to melt something or to like
there's an there's an idol or something in the wax, right?
Yeah, and it was okay, but I guess it's because like you had to use fire at some point, but if you weren't getting fire,
you had to do it open at tribal,
right? So that was your only opportunity.
Yeah, and probably production say no, you need to cook the eggs with your own fire. You cannot use the fire at tribal. Though, like. I would just have done it and seen what happened.
Right. How long can eggs sit out in the sun and just bake?
In the Fijian wild? I don't think it's something you want to do.
I mean, because now like they have all these eggs that are gonna sit at camp with no fire and like
I mean, theoretically, if they do the Mergatory, they're gonna have fire the next day. And so At that point, you have 18 eggs for 13 people, and so everyone is going to get a little bit of egg. Or you can hard boil them and pray that at that point you're like, I'll risk a bad egg perhaps. I'm not eating anything else.
Do you have it in you just to kill the chicken?
No.
No?
I mean, have you ever killed a chicken?
I have not killed a chicken, but I feel like, so here's my dilemma, is I think that they're not really as hungry this early to make that moral decision on whether to kill it or not. It's just an easy decision. I'm not going to do it. But if we were like 20 days into this now, and we got 13 people and not 4 or 5 having to make the decision, I think it might get a little dicey. But I don't think we'll ever see chickens again. I don't think it'll be an option.
I really no. I think Survivor likes getting the chickens, and I don't know if we'll see the option for players to be able to trade the chickens back in per se. I was surprised that how much eggs they got out of it to begin with. It was just more funny than anything else, and then they couldn't cook the eggs.
Yes, I think that's where it becomes full circle at the very end, is when you realize, because Sierra didn't even put 2 and 2 together until Rachel had said something.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel's like, "Yep, it's ironic that we have all these eggs and now we don't have fire." And then at that point, it kind of hits them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna take our flint, and we're not gonna have fire to cook these eggs."
Because you're not cooking rice. I guess you can cook the coconut. I mean, there's not much reason to have the fire except for maybe warmth at night. I guess the tactic is you always want to have a fire going before you go to the immunity challenge, just so you have embers when you get back if you need them.
Yep, I think that's the right move. But let me ask you, if you were the only player on or the only tribe member that went to the sanctuary for this socialization event, and that's what I'm going to call it, would you be happy about that, or would you be worried about that?
I would be thrilled. I feel like Teeny was in the best place because where you can learn little things, say whatever you can say whatever you want. I mean, granted, not like everything you want, but don't have to worry, and then you can kind of say what you want to say back at camp and live things versus you're not going to have people spot check what you said, what did Rachel say here? What did Sam say here? And confirm that way.
Right. And I agree. At first I was like, man, there's no way I would want to be the only one to go. Mm-hmm. But then I thought about it. And I was like, no, that's actually probably the best way, because you can narrate whatever story you want when you get back. Mm-hmm. And chances are it's some version of the truth. It may not be the full truth. It may be half truths, but it's probably a little bit of something that you can give to your tribe to make them feel reassured that you went and got something out of it.
And if I can't be the only person to go, I want my entire rest of the tribe to go and leave me behind, right? Because Gabe was the only one left from his blue tribe, right? And so, we didn't see anything from him because he probably was idle hunting unsuccessfully.
Right.
But that was the best position to be in. It's hey, I have it's a field day for you to do whatever I want, and idle hunting, there's no ramifications. I'll go out and do that. That's likely what he did. It just didn't matter because Sue had the idol.
Right. And so Teeny basically, she tells the players what happened with Keyshawn at the last tribal, and she tells them that she feels that she's on the bottom of Lavo tribe. Sam tells the players that he and Sierra are definitely not a couple. They are not a thing, and they are not running things, even though
they would never vote with each other. They
would
never pull off a blindside together in the tribe of 5.
Never. And we will see that come to fruition. But, obviously the perception is that Sam and Sierra are the ones that are running things at the Gata tribe.
I don't know if it's necessarily the perception everyone has. It's certainly a rumor. However, it is now like we were going to talk about. It is now an actuality that they're going to face after this episode.
I think one of the things early on, and you see it in the live reality games, is when you have to vote someone out, it's like, well, what merit are we going off of to vote this person out? So a lot of times you just grasping at straws, and whatever little thing it might be, everyone attaches to that because they just need something to put on someone to justify their vote.
Well, I feel that's the case for the first couple votes very early on when everyone's kind of like figuring things out. Like no one wants to be first. How do you throw someone to the bus in a way that doesn't implicate you and everyone's gonna run with, right? And that's like we gotta keep the tribe strong. Like the age-old excuse is like, well, this is a live game, but like, yeah, let's vote out this person for tribe strength, right? Like this is. I feel like at this point we're not seeing those reasons. More like, no, Annika's annoying, and Annika's a problem. We're not working with each other, and Andy is a better ally for us.
Yeah. I think that's what the other tribes did, with Sierra and Sam. They see one thing, and the immediate perception is, well, they're running things. They're a couple. They're doing this. And so now it's just an easy thing to latch onto. But obviously now, like, is a chance for Sam to really tell other people to change that narrative and that truth. But we see how that works out later on. Tiana, she was spilling all kinds of tea on Gabe, man. She was out there throwing Gabe's name under the bus.
Not very subtle.
No, not at all. And to me, it's not a good look, but it's also she's not a good game player if she's doing that, because now she's doing it in front of Sue, and I guess she's not aware that Gabe and Sue are tight. So either her gameplay at camp is really bad and she's oblivious to those things, or Sue and Gabe are doing a really good job of hiding the fact that they're working closely together.
I'm gonna give props to Sue and Gabe for keeping on the down low their relationship.
Yeah, I think so. But either way, like that's not a good look for Tiana. It's not a good look for Tuku. But I think Tiana might, and I don't know this, maybe she feels as though she's at the bottom, or maybe doesn't have a place. So she knows the merge is coming. So she's trying to throw feelers out there and let people know, hey, I'm basically a free agent when we all get together. If I make it that far, I'm willing to work with anybody. So,
well, Sue certainly has a hit list in her tribe, right? She wants Kyle because Kyle wrote his name down. She's not a fan of Tiana. All right, so I think had this blue tribe gone back to tribal council, it would have been very much like, which of the two do we vote out?
Yeah. Well, either way, Sue is not happy right now. She was not happy with her. Caroline didn't really say much. I didn't hear her talk much about Tiana and her talking about Gabe. I think Caroline is looking at the game the right way, because she's at the sanctuary looking long term. How do I prepare myself to be here long term? So she's trying to talk and
get out. The best way to form a long term alliance. I don't know what you're talking
about. But I mean, she's talking to the right people. She's talking to Rachel, who we'll find out now is going to need people more than ever. But she's also talking to Teeny, who Teeny could be on the outs with her tribe or could not be. It really just depends on a couple of different factors, Rome being the biggest one. Overall, I think the socialization chance that they had was a positive, and I think it allowed people to make some connections moving forward and then have options for the merge. And I think anytime you get to talk to other players, you just got to figure out how to have options.
Oh yeah,
the more options you have, the better opportunity you have to stay in the game. But we end up, going back to Lavo. Rome and Saul are talking about, obviously, Teeny's not there, so they say, hey, let's talk about how to get Teeny out. Rome tells Saul about Teeny's amulet, and basically that Genevieve doesn't want to work with Saul. She wants to work with Teeny. So Rome is out there just telling Saul, the guy who just last week he couldn't work with, didn't want to work with, and had to get rid of. now he's telling him everything that's going on. And so, like, I'm trying to figure out, is Rome a good player, a bad player? Is he just like there's a lot of like I have a lot of issues with the Lavo tribe. They are just all over the place. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But how
It's
do
not
you
like
feel
the
about Lavo?
biggest problem here was Saul and Genevieve them going and comparing notes, right? It's like if it was in isolation, if Rome was just talking to each one of them, they were never going to talk to each other. It would have been great, right? But then they went compared notes, and Jen was like, "Huh, he's telling you information that I don't want him to tell." And Saul's still wary of Rome. Why should he trust Rome? And so like, and I get where like Genevieve's like he's coming on, he's acting like we lost an immunity challenge and we haven't lost an immunity challenge, right? Like I think granted, you're in tribe of 4, so you can definitely see why you're pushing a name, but maybe is this the time to really say like we should vote Teeny out? Maybe not. Maybe just say, hey, I really want to work with you. Here is some information to help prove the trust. Here's something that you haven't learned yet that I want you to know about.
I think me personally, I think Saul needs to figure out a way to get Rome before Rome gets him, because I think it's inevitable that Rome is going to go for him. It may not be next, but at some point, Rome, I just feel like he doesn't want to hold Saul till the end.
No, I agree that Rome does not want Saul to end, but does Rome not want Saul in the final 12? I don't think so. But granted, like the whole mergatory thing is all contingent on who is immune and who isn't, and what the composition of that vulnerable group is, etc. So I don't know.
Yeah, you are right though. Why the big push to talk about it when you haven't even had an immunity challenge? And so it may be a moot point if you just go out and finish first or second in the immunity challenge. Then you don't have to go to tribal, and it's not a big deal. But now you put it out there. Now it's created this thing, and if you luck up and you win immunity, that thing doesn't go away. It only has more time to like fester and like become a problem. So
I think one of the challenges for Rome is that we see Genevieve really kind of questioning, like, how deep do I want to go with Rome? Rome is problematic. I like Rome. We get along. He's a good ally to me, but how deep do I want to go? Because there are some challenges of playing with them. And we see that questioning, but Rome doesn't. Right. And I think Rome maybe should be doing more to reassure, and maybe he is doing this, we just don't see it, but doing more to reassure and bring Genevieve in and saying, hey, I want to approach Saul. I want to tell him the following. I want to have him on our side. So we are in the middle, not Teeny. Like at this next vote, because I'd like it to be between Saul and Teeny, not between me and Teeny or me and Saul.
I think Genevieve basically wants Rome to dig his own grave. She wants to provide him the shovel, but she just wants to back up and let him do all the work. That way it's easier for her and she doesn't have to make the decision. Because I think she feels as though her game is going to be weakened if he's not in the game.
I guess I'm always concerned though, like to what extent, if Rome can't be targeted, what extent does she become the target, right? And I don't know. I think it'll be very telling at merge to see what kind of social capital Rome will have with the other tribes.
Yeah, what is your take on Rome? Just your like, do you like him?
I admire how much he is carpe diem, right? He's seizing the day. He is making the most of every situation. He's putting himself in every hero role. He is doing the thing, whether he should or not. And so like he is making the most of the experience. And I admire that, because like you only can potentially go on Survivor once, right? It's not guaranteed you'll ever be back again. And so I like his enthusiasm. I like how he sees in the day. I think there are aspects of the game he's playing I like, but also there are large aspects I'm just like, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I get it. Like I can appreciate someone going on Survivor and going, I'm going to play this hard and I'm going to take advantage of every little opportunity that I can. I think that's Rome. He appreciates the game and he goes, I'm going to maximize everything that I can. Even when we're talking about who we're voting out or who's next when we don't even know if we're going to have to go to tribal.
Because it was after they lost the reward. He was crying, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, this week when they won immunity at the end, he was crying.
Okay, I thought he was crying earlier. Maybe I'm just missing that in my head.
He might have been. The fact that he did say
he was like, "This is the worst." He was like, "This is the worst Survivor Day ever," right?
Yeah, he was talking about this being the hardest day. It was like the 8th day, and he's just depleted, and they've
that one hot dog would have been everything. No.
Yeah, bro, you didn't see the hot dogs, Rome. You would have. It wasn't anything.
It was kind of surprising to hear him have such a strong reaction to losing that, where it's like, well, it's a reward, and yes, it's just a hot dog. I mean, maybe it's the food, maybe it's a combination of things, but he's I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens at merge, and at what point is Kenny just let's get rid of him. My life will be easier.
Yeah, and that could easily happen, unless but he is the type of player who he wants the spotlight, and if you want the spotlight enough, you go searching for it, and sometimes you get lucky and you find stuff that helps move you forward, and he might be one of those guys.
Just day one, blitz the idol, ignore everything else. You don't need allies, you need advantages.
Right. So the players all come back eventually from the sanctuary, and Rachel tells Annika, because they're together, about the Tuku tribe, and basically what Caroline had mentioned to her. And then Sam tells Sierra about Sue saying that her and Sam were running things, and then Sierra was like, we don't even talk that much, or Sam was like, we don't even talk that much, and I'm like, doesn't look like that, but hey, whatever you got to tell yourself. Sierra in a confessional is pondering moving forward with Breadwinners Alliance or staying true to Sam and Andy.
So what is your evaluation? Did Sierra make the right decision this episode with which alliance she went with?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I think here's the reason why, is because now you have an erratic 3 instead of a strong 4 that you could be going to merge with. So if you get rid of Andy, everybody's good. Like, that was the vote, and Annika, Rachel, Sam, and her now are this strong 4. Then you can play the game of staying aligned with your tribe throughout the merge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you vote Annika off and you choose Andy, now you're saying, well, the guy who's emotionally unstable, who you don't really know what he's doing, and we got to coach him through the whole game, he's our third of this strong alliance. So really, now the perception is really real, because now it's me and Sam and then this guy Andy. People are definitely going to think that we're running the tribe and that we're together and we're stringing Andy along. So I personally think it was the wrong decision long term. I think it was her wanting to feel secure with having some type of shield in front of her. And I think Sam and Andy provide a shield for her, and she can kind of play behind them. I don't know. How do you feel?
I agree that I like the idea more about coming into a merge situation with a unified tribe versus someone disgruntled who likely may try to bust me or something like that. And so I think having Rachel kind of walk in the merge untethered from your tribe is not going to be helpful to them.
Right.
That said, I do think Sierra's in a hard situation because Annika's lost vote mattered a lot, right? Because had Annika had a vote, Sierra could have been the tiebreaker in a 2-3 situation. She could have voted Andy out and said, sorry, Sam, I'm still with you, but I'm not, but I don't want Andy.
Right. And then, and I think Sam at that point, he would be like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll vote him because I don't think he was opposed to voting him. He just didn't want.
He didn't want Annika around, and
Yeah.
and I agree that Andy's better for his game. You know, Andy might be good for Sierra's game, but like, I think Sierra should have, gone to Rachel and said, "Hey, you need to know this is happening. You need to know that like you need to know that we are voting on God today, and like even if you don't want to vote this way, I want you to know this is happening, and there's nothing Annika can do because she has no vote, no shot in the dark. Please don't tell her."
Well, now and thankfully Rachel has the foresight enough at the reward to talk to Caroline and Teeny to try to figure out like a another option once we get to merge. But she's in a really tough spot now, especially if they lose this next week's immunity challenge, because then you have like if they don't merge and for whatever reason, and to me she's the one who's on the block, right?
Rachel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I think at that point it's like, well, we've already committed to this 3, so we're in it to win it at this point, I think. But I like Rachel. I think she's a very good player. I just think she's in a tough situation, and the Breadwinners Alliance, I think that they desperately wanted to work. I think Sierra just kind of blew that up on them big time.
Yeah, I think ultimately I would have tried to, if I was going to take out Annika, I would try to bring Rachel over and make it happen, to say, this sucks. We need to do this. Sam's not budging. Andy's not budging. We're not going to rocks for Annika.
Right. And I think if your alliance with her was as strong as they made it out to be, that's a conversation that I think Rachel can respect, and she can at least either hold that information to herself, or she can say, hey, you need to start figuring out a way out of this, because this is what's going on, Annika, if she cares that much about it. But her not knowing hurts her big time.
But like again, seeing that we're going to Mergatory, seeing like we saw that her, Caroline, Teeny are talking. I think Rachel is going to be free of the Sam and Sierra power duo that will be targeted at merge. I mean, if this merge goes in the past where we have the Mergatory Tribal Council, then we have an immediate split tribe Tribal Council. I see trouble for those two.
Yeah, I think hopefully I like Rachel, and as far as the Gata tribe go, I think I like her the best, and I would like to see her move forward in the game. But I do like the erratic dynamic that Andy brings. So having him in the game longer, like, is kind of fun, and it's kind of like creates this unknowing opportunity, like what's going to happen. Because I mean, that was what's great about this episode, is they set up this thing with Andy and his plan and how it was all going to unfold, and step by step, it started working. But I almost felt like they were setting it up to like be like comic relief at the tribal when they all vote for Andy.
It made me wonder, like, because everyone knows Sam has this idol except for Andy, right? And so was there pre-discussion like, Sam, can we throw your name out because you're gonna be safe because you're gonna play this idol? And like, or was this, or like, how much was Sam feeling comfortable with them like putting his name out? And granted, the tribe of like 5, like there's really not much place to hide anyways, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think Sam wanted, I don't know. So sometimes I feel like when people get idols, they really want the opportunity to play them. But Sam really just didn't need to play it. Like, it was just
And he did,
and so he didn't. And I think it's because it's on everyone's Survivor checklist, bucket list. Oh, I got an idol and I played it.
Well, I think it's more like, especially if your idol is expiring, why give up the chance to be immune? Why not? Well, why pass up a chance to ensure that you're making it to the next episode?
Yeah, that's the way I see it. Is you are never safe at tribal unless you have immunity. So why not give yourself that opportunity if you can? Because if you don't have to win it and then you just have it, like use it. Like I feel like
the Survivor 46.
Yeah, that was they were wanting to take souvenirs home, is what that was. And
I mean, I've been voted out with the idol in my pocket. I've walked out with a souvenir. You feel pretty stupid doing it. I can attest to this.
yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if you should just play it, just be done with it and play it. I mean, especially in that situation where you know it's only good. Now, if it was good for a while, then oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Even though they were talking about him, I would still, have options of when you wanted to play it, but his ended, so just play it and be done with it. But I mean, maybe that's how he feels. He knows he's leading that tribe and he feels confident being on top. And
I mean, I will be curious to see, because Rachel knows he has it, when the information gets to Andy and what happens as a result of it.
I mean, if I'm Rachel, I think I'm figuring out a way quickly to bring that up and be like,
everyone.
Hey, yeah, just blow them up right there.
I mean, it's an expired idol, so it's not like it matters, but you don't have to tell people it's expired. Just like, I know Sam found an idol. And I know he didn't play it last round. I don't know how much longer it's good for, but it might be good for longer. Who knows?
Yeah. And then just let people take that.
Yep.
Yeah. However they want to take it. So they get to immunity challenge, and basically the challenge is we're dragging a bag, we're untying a saw, we're sawing the door open, we're taking the coconuts in the bags, filling our bag, we're dragging it. Long. I enjoyed this immunity challenge, but at the end it was throwing sandbags and knocking puzzle blocks down completely off of a deck. And then once all the pieces are off, we have to rebuild that puzzle. And obviously the first two that do it get immunity. The third person is what Jeff says is the loser.
I have to ask, how do you evaluate Andy's challenge abilities?
I think he's the worst challenge player ever. And what aggravates me more than anything, Steven, is in the first episode, they're justifying keeping him because he's physical in the challenges, and yet he's not good at any challenge,
which he admits. Like, he's like, hey, I suck at challenges, but here I am.
He owns it, and I get that, but at some point you're like, well,
have you seen the gif of him attempting to saw the rope?
He looks, I don't even want to know what he looks like. He looks like we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, he looks ridiculous. It's clear that he has never sawed anything before, because one, he doesn't know what end of the saw to use, and he really doesn't know how to attack it. So,
I mean, I'll say, like, when you're under pressure, sometimes you do very stupid things in these challenges, but like that was a bad look.
Yes.
And that probably cost them that actually probably did cost them the game, as like when someone said in their confessional.
I mean, when it comes down to seconds, Sam said it, if we would have sawed the rope a few seconds faster, we probably would have won. And that's very true. And I said this last week, and I'll get your take on it, Steven, is I feel like Andy is bad at challenges, but he's also like the jester of the tribe. So he like really animates how bad he is. Like, it's one thing not to be able to saw the rope, but like he's flipping it over, and like it's not like, I feel like he is pandering to the fact that he wants to be the doofus, and he wants people to think that he's the doofus.
If this was a mastermind plan, I think we have heard about it. So I would, if he was stressing or masterminding, I would have been very impressed. I don't think so. I think we're just getting Andy.
Unapologetically Andy is what we're going to
unapologetically Andy.
And do you see Andy going deep in this game?
Yes.
I do too. And I hate that, but I do.
I mean, the question is, when Andy's from a final tribal council, someone's going to ask him, what happened day 3? Like, how should we make you the winner after seeing what happened day 3? Now, granted, we've had other people win Survivor doing other wild, crazy things. So that was such a defining moment that really caught people's minds. I think people might look at Andy and say, I don't know if people want to, I don't think people are going to, I think people may underestimate him, which will be good, or people may just say, yeah, we've written him off, and we're not going to worry until like Endgame.
Yeah, I think that's when it comes back to bite him, when you could have voted someone out and you should have voted someone out, but you didn't, and then they end up figuring it out at the end, and the shoulda, woulda, couldas don't matter because they end up winning.
And maybe we'll see that too. Andy will be the winner of season 47. Everyone will be scratching their heads like, where did this come from? I haven't paid attention to Edgic, so who knows what they're saying.
Yeah, I haven't seen what people are saying about him. I'm just going off of what I see in the edits, and he gets a lot of play. I'll say that. And
it was a good voting confessional.
Yes. And we'll get to that, I guess. Obviously, the Gotta Tribe, they do their, before the challenge starts, they do their negotiation, which, I mean, they asked 24 eggs for 3 hens. They end up with 18, and there's a lot of people, I guess, saying that Jeff has gone soft, and like, in years past, he would have never gave 18 eggs or any eggs or whatever. What's your take on that? Like, was that a good moment for Survivor? Like,
I mean, I was surprised they got 18 eggs. I think mostly like, if Jeff had a crystal ball and knew they were going to lose, he was like, this is even better, right? They're getting eggs, they have no fire, and like the eggs might just go uneaten, and like so it goes. I was really surprised he like let them broker a trade like that, and maybe the answer is like, is it better to broker before the challenge or after the challenge, knowing you won or lost?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Is that's the question. Should you have done it then or after? But I guess when you bring your chickens to the immunity challenge,
Jeff's
you're gonna
say, what's that?
Be like, what is going on here? But Andy struggled. We talked about Andy struggled cutting the rope. Tuku gets to the puzzle to rebuild it first. Gata got to the puzzle second. Lavo got there third. Tuku ends up just killing it. They did a great job. They won. I think wire to wire. They took that challenge down, and then Lavo finishes second by just a couple seconds, forcing Gata now to go to tribal, have 18 eggs, no flint, no fire to cook them on, and
they can eat them raw.
They could go Rocky style and just crack them and take them down. But
what could go wrong?
Could you imagine being medvaced out because that's what you did?
Salmonella. It'll look great. It'll be a Survivor first.
Yes. Obviously, Gata gets back. They know that they are going to have to go to tribal. They're sulking, obviously, about losing. And they start throwing Andy's name out. And I think it was everyone. And I think this is for the plan to start being in place to get everyone thinking it's Andy and not Annika. Andy wants Annika and tells Annika and Rachel that he's on the outs and begs to be a part of what they have. He's basically telling them, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll vote any way you want. Just tell me what it is.
Yeah, bring me in. Which is what you do anyways.
But here's the thing: is like, it's such a to me, that's the only move that you can make if you're going to pitch anything to them. But he knew that they were going to bring him Sam. They weren't going to bring Sierra because Andy was the only one who, until he told Sam that there was this girls breadwinner alliance. So why would they bring him Sierra's name?
Well, I think I mean, I appreciate Annika and Rachel playing the game, tossing the name out and saying, here's what it is. Maybe they, behind the scenes, wait and see, confirm with Sam saying, Andy's saying this. Are you comfortable? Should we say something else? And like, maybe they did their due homework, but like, Andy now can go to Sam and say, hey, they're telling me to vote you. You really should take Annika out, Sam. They are not your friends. And
yeah,
and try to drive a wedge in there.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It seems like time is the issue, and being able to have the time to do that type of plan.
And maybe the answer is, if you're Annika and Rachel, you say, Andy, I don't know. I'm not. People aren't making up their minds. Like, if you want something, you need to tell us, and like we'll be on board and force Andy to really be the driver, quote unquote. So you can bust him, and say, Andy, Sam, hey Sam, Andy is throwing your name out. It's like he's really pushing for you, and we're saying yes, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I think they needed to do something a little bit different and force Andy to give them something instead of them giving Andy exactly what he wanted, which, you know, I think part of Andy, I don't know. So Andy talks about how he's at the bottom, and he said this in many confessionals and to many people, that he feels he's at the bottom. Does he really feel like he's at the bottom, or do you think he feels like he's like in the mix and like he's helping?
I think he feels at the bottom. Like, the only way you know you're not at the bottom until after this tribal council, like, oh, okay, I'm not. They actually are working with me.
So that's what I would have done if I was Rachel and Annika. I would have used that to my advantage and go, look, you're at the bottom. You've said to everyone you're at the bottom. We know you're at the bottom. What are you going to do? What do you propose to do? That way, maybe we can try to figure out a way for us to get that to happen. And
I mean, I think the real problem is that Annika and Rachel did a great job cultivating an alliance with Sierra, but we don't see anything with Sam, right? There's likely stuff happening. We don't see anything with Sam. We don't see anything with Andy. And I think had they also been working on Andy to bring him in as a third, even though it's not real, or trying to like or we see maybe Onyx's falling cause, but Rachel really try to get in with Sam more. I think the problem is, like, you know, this tribe was initially 3 sets of duos, and like that duo stayed pretty insulated outside. Like, hey, we have Sierra.
Yeah. Well, you know, and then Sam has the internal struggle of, now who does he go with, because he does want to stay true to Andy. And hey, look who it is. Sorry, future
Survivor fan.
Yeah. He wants to stay true to Andy, but he also wants to do what's best for his game. And
we're 2 Survivor fans.
Yeah. So for those that are listening, that's my daughter and my wife. Very supportive and love Survivor as much as I do. We have to create and challenges outside to do. And obviously I never win immunity. It's always my daughter. But yeah, you know, Sam is having that internal struggle with how do I go forward in this game? Do I stay true to Andy, or do I vote him out because that's just the easiest out? But I also don't want him to find out that I have this idol. Should I play it? Should I not play it? Should I tell him? Should I not tell him? So, like, when I hear all that, Steven, I feel as though Sam knows that at some point he's got to cut ties with Andy. Because if you're having that much struggle with keeping him or not telling him things, you're not as close as you need to be. And I think once Andy finds that out, and I think that's going to be very soon, that's going to be a problem.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, because Andy has clearly been a source of information for Sam, right? Because Sierra says stuff, and Andy just tells Sam that immediately. And maybe because I think he wants to say, like, hey, Sam, you can't trust those girls. Look what they're up to. There's an all-girls alliance, all the breadwinners, right? Which again, wild that Sierra like disclosed that to Andy before she disclosed that to Sam.
I give credit though to Sam. Sam earned that information from Andy just by being the only friend, I guess, that Andy really had. And he was like, look, man, I got you. I got your back. We'll work through this game together,
I mean,
and I think that's what allowed Andy to go to Sam and tell him. And I think that's part of what Sam might be struggling with is Andy is good about giving Sam the information he needs to know.
I think you have an idol. It's going to expire. Everyone else knows about it. Andy's looking for it. I think you go to Andy and say, hey, I want to share this with you. I found the idol. It's only good for tonight. I need to play it. I'm sorry I kept it hidden from you, but I was keeping it hidden from everyone because it's an idol. I didn't want to be targeted for it, but I decided that it needs to happen tonight. Look surprised when it happens. And then the answer is maybe he then plays it for himself, or maybe the answer is you don't tell Andy, you play it for Andy anyways. Because I think for Andy, you're mad he found it, but also well, he played it for me.
So and I think coming out up front and telling him then that you have it, it clears your path later. But also you have the opportunity to play it. If you really want Andy to stay and you're really worried about it, you play it for him and you now have created an alliance member for the remainder of the game, in my opinion.
I mean, you could there's the strong arm approach. You tell Rachel, I'm playing the idol and Andy. We're voting Annika. Sierra is not voting me. You can vote me. It's not going to work, and therefore I know that I have at least 3 votes that are going to take that are going to vote out Annika. Maybe there's probably a more diplomatic way to approach this than the Rome version. Like you're going home and I'm stealing your vote.
So give me your shot in the dark. Or that's it.
Yeah, there's probably a nicer diplomatic approach, but he could have used it to strong arm Rachel to acquiesce. She'd be unhappy, but at least you'd have some sort of hey, it's a more cohesive 4 potentially.
Yeah. Well, we get to tribal. Andy votes Annika. Annika doesn't have a vote, which, originally I thought I'm not good at math, and which is sad. And I was like, oh shit, that her not being able to vote is going to be the deciding factor, but it really wouldn't have mattered either way, because she would have voted for Andy.
Again, it prevents Sierra from easily flipping, right? Yeah. Sierra can't sit there in the middle and say, boy, which way do I want to go? And granted, Sierra maybe would have never voted Andy because she just didn't know how Sam was using the idol on himself, on Andy, keeping it. It's just not worth the risk at the end, perhaps.
Yeah, that's probably that's a valid point because you don't want to throw daggers in your own game if you don't have to. And I think for Sierra, getting rid of Annika was the same as getting rid of Andy, I think, for her game. Eventually, I think they should have got rid of Andy, but I think eventually they're not going to want to move forward with either one of those 2, or at least I don't think Sierra wants Andy long term, but I don't think they want Annika either. So, but Sam votes Annika, Rachel votes Andy, and I mean it's unanimous 4-1 because Annika doesn't have a vote, and Annika goes home
in a very blindsided manner.
Very. And this is, I don't know if I've ever so one thing about me, Steven, is I'm not very good at I love the game of Survivor, but if you were to ask me about what happened in season 12, or do you remember what happened in season 12, when so-and-so did this, I won't remember it. And so this could have happened last week or previous, but I just don't remember. I never remember someone getting voted out and having that much time to talk or say things or process. It's usually snuff your torch, you look back, you either wave, you say something, and you keep on going. But it was she was blindsided. She was able to look around. She was able to really asked Rachel, "Did you know?" She was also given time to go, who was responsible for this? And like I haven't seen that as much in the past, like that much time to ask questions and kind of, dig into why you were eliminated.
I don't think there's a hard rule. I think because it makes entertaining TV to see someone really stunned and upset, have those moments of processing, and like I'm thinking of like Michaela when she's blindsided in Millennials versus Gen X. There's a whole conversation between her and Jay during the votes. Like, did you do that? Jay's like, I did. And so like they're not frequent, but they're fun. I'd like to think I'd take it like a good sport, but also I might just be very salty, right? Because I'm like, hey, this has been my dream and it's been ruined. And I hate all of you for it. I hope none of you win.
Yeah, I think for me, it's getting blindsided is definitely a way to go. I mean, you know, um, but I'll ask you this, Stephen, as far as so Annika goes, who was responsible for this or who created this plan? And Sam immediately raises his hand and goes, me. But then Andy hesitantly goes, no, it was all three of us. We were the ones who voted for you, which is two, in my opinion, when you analyze both of those comments deeper, those are two totally different answers. Sam says it's me, but then Andy says it's all three of us.
This is the quintessential issue when it comes to Final Tribal Council. What move did you make? Well, and then you're like, well, I did this, but I'm not the only person who voted them out. Like, this was a group effort and I was part of it. It's hard to identify sometimes the person being the driver of a vote. And in this case, like with the tribe of five, with only 4 votes, and I think we can really say this was Sam saying, I want to keep Andy, and Sierra and Andy going with them. I think we could say that. But again, Sam didn't do it alone. He had to have those 2 votes to go with him.
Right. And if Sam and Andy were asked at a final tribal about this particular move, I think Andy would try to claim that it was his move and he created it. But I also think Sam would try to do the same.
I think, and that's I think it's dangerous. Let's say Sam's in the jury and Andy does that, right?
Yeah.
Sam's gonna feel slighted by that or shut that down, or like it. Again, it's all about the ways you need to pander to make the jury like you.
Absolutely. I just thought it was interesting because it seemed like Andy was trying to be hesitant and not give information about who created that move when he could have easily went, and based on what we saw in the editing, like they made it out to be where it was Andy's, like he helped concoct that move to happen. Obviously, he needed Sierra and Sam to carry it out, but he had no responsibility. But also, if you look at it deeper, Sierra, she didn't say anything. She just was like, raised her hand in the background. She wasn't like throwing herself out there to give any credibility that she was the creator of that. But Sam had no problem immediately going, that was me. So I don't know. I just found that interesting how they all three handled that question when asked.
I mean, for better or worse, it's pre-merge. Pre-merge rarely is a topic of Final Tribal Council because there's so much more emphasis on that stage of game. But you never know.
Right. I talked last week about, not going with the easy vote. Was this a case of them overthinking the vote and not going with the easy vote, or was Annika actually the easy vote?
If this was the 3rd tribal council, and there's a likely chance of going another vote, I would have been, I think, more okay with blindsiding Annika and apologizing to Rachel or voting Rachel out. However, this is the 5th tribal council, and we're going to mergatory, And now you have an upset and angry Rachel, who now has ties to the other side, and is going to probably leverage them and say, "Hey, I don't need my original yellow. I'm off to go work with other people. And by the way, I'm happy to vote out Sam, Sierra, and Andy if need be."
True. What do you think this means for Rachel? I mean, obviously, she didn't know about this move, and you know, I felt as though she had a good grasp of the game, but now she's clearly on the bottom, or at least information wise and what's being shared, she's definitely on the bottom.
I mean, I think there's a world where the merge story happens. She's on the losing tribe. There's no other yellows present, right? And Sam, Sierra, and Andy just bust her. I think that would be worst case scenario. But yeah. I think she's going to go to Caroline, go to Sue, go to Gabe. I think Teeny's going to go there as well. You're going to start seeing this multi-tribe alliance forming of those numbers. Andy's likely to get peeled off into that as well because he has one of the amulets that they're going to use them constructively with each other. I don't know if that will happen, but you might see this cross group building with a majority of blue people, right, taking out kind of these outliers on yellow, Sam and Sierra, and red, Rome and Saul.
Yeah. If you had an amulet, if you had a piece of those amulets, what would be your mentality on having it? Would you go, let's figure out how to us all three get there and use it whenever we need to, or are you trying to figure out a way to get rid of the other two so that yours is solely yours?
I'm trying to think. The last amulet that wasn't Xander. That was runner up 2 seasons ago. What was his name? Austin.
Yeah.
Where it kind of like, I'm not saying it lucked out, but Austin was like, "Well, I wanted my sandwich. I'm not getting my sandwich." And he just votes out those 2 players and gets the full power advantage. I mean, with the way it is now, I would just be saying, guys, let's just play it. Let's burn it. Let's play it. Otherwise, we were going to be looking to backstab each other, and let's minimize that desire. Whoever is vulnerable at this first tribal council, let's play it for them and let's move on.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic when you start needing other players for power advantages to work, or you give your advantage or your power to someone else in hopes that they give it back to you.
I think they really want another moment from Survivor Kyle Wrong where like Scott's voted out. He turns to Ty, says, "Ty, let me have your idol." And Ty's just like, "Nope, I'm not." And Scott goes home with an idol in his pocket as a result. I think they really want to see that moment where someone says, "I have my amulet. Give me your amulet." They're like, "Nope," because now mine's a full idol. See ya.
So I'll ask you, and we'll wrap this up. Power rankings. Obviously, everyone does their own power rankings. I don't know. It's really hard to do power rankings when you're looking at 3 tribes that are doing things totally separate. You know, I would ask you, you know, if we're gonna power rank people, like what tribe is in the best position?
Blue. I
think so. Even though Tiana has now created like a little bit of chaos, you still think it's Tuku. They're in good shape.
I think you have the largest group of 4 possibly, and you know maybe Kyle is like not going to be down with it, but I think Sue, Gabe, and Caroline will kind of be a nexus that pulls in 1 or 2 players from the other 2 tribes. And I think people aren't going to realize that and be okay with like taking out these deemed power couples of Genevieve and Rome, or like Sierra and Sam. And then like at that point, that blue group will be large enough that they'll have a majority to kind of figure things out from there.
Yeah, I think if Gabe, Sue, Caroline, I mean, in Kyle's kind of like the odd man, like they could pull him, but he could stay or he could go. But it's clear to me that Tiana is on the outs.
Mm-hmm.
But if Caroline pulls Rachel and pulls Teeny, like that is a really strong 5, regardless of what Kyle chooses to do.
And, you know, maybe then this is all set up to show like Tiana is going to be the merge boot, right? Because like blue wants her out, and everyone's like, well, yeah, you know, like how can you trust someone who's trying to bust you so transparently like that? I don't know.
Right. All right. big question. Who's playing the best game?
All right, I need to look at the cast list to make sure I'm going to say this right.
And it's kind of a tricky question because a lot of like when you watch it, there's a lot of editing, and you see what they want you to see.
I'm going to say what all the live rally game fans want. I still think Teeny's playing the best game. I'll put Caroline in second place.
Okay. I think when I look at where someone's at in the tribe and what they're doing and how they're making moves, I think I agree with you, but I think you got to put Genevieve in that group too, because I think she is in a good spot where Rome is her shield. I don't think she's ever going to get a lot of heat unless the only thing that would hurt her is if Rome gets an idol and then it becomes this voting situation where they know that them two are locked together and it's either him or her. And if he has an idol, then it's her. But I think she realized early that she's stronger with him for now, but she's also under the impression that he's got to go at some point.
I'll agree with you in terms of I think her positioning on her tribe is exquisite. I guess what I think I give some preference to Teeny and Caroline is the opportunities they've had to mingle with other tribes and what they've used to set up for what's to come. I think that gives them an edge in terms of what's happening. And that's just based off opportunities that they've been had that Genevieve hasn't.
I would agree with that. As far as picking a winner, it's so hard now to pick a winner. It's easier just to we'll take the easy way out and just go who we think is playing good right now.
All right. So give me the top 3 players you think are in trouble.
Tiana obviously is there. I think I think Kyle might be in trouble just because like where is he? He's kind of in this like no man's land of like he's there, but like what is he doing? Who's he with? Who's he aligned with? Like and I would say I think well, it all comes down to like are we merging or are we not merging? And that's going to be the big predictor. And but I will play devil's advocate for live reality games fans is that I think Teeny is in trouble. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier is like she lost some trust with arguably the person who is making a lot of the decisions for her tribe, but she also is now trying to figure out like when you start trying to figure out alliances with the other tribes, yes, she was given the opportunity, but to me that tells me everything I need to know about her standing within the tribe. So I think that she's on the bottom. So Tiana, Kyle, and Teeny are my 3 that are in trouble. And I would say Teeny's the least of the in trouble, but I would put her there.
I'll agree with Tiana for everything you said. I'm going to put Sam and Sierra as well. I think there's a reason why we've heard that this narrative like, oh, are they together? Are they a power couple? I think Rachel's going to bust them, and one's going to get the blowback for it.
Who would you of the 2, Sierra or Sam? Who do you think's going to get busted?
Sierra. Think so?
You don't think it could be Sam for hiding his idol? And I don't think it matters once you merge. Like once you go into merge, like I don't think that kind of stuff matters, especially if you can't.
I think Rachel's going to out the fact Sam found an idol. I think she's going to say they are a couple, power couple. They blindsided me. Look what they're doing. No one's going to care about Andy. And they're going to look at Sam and Sierra. One of them is going to win. One of them's going to lose the immunity challenge, and the vulnerable one is going to be taken out.
It's a good perspective. I can see that. Can I change my answer now? I do agree with that. I think now that you and I think it's because I'm a Rachel fan
Mhm.
and I want her to do well. So
I think Rachel's going to use it into great success.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you want to bring up?
No, I think we talked about everything that happened this episode.
Yeah, excited to do it again next week. Obviously, if you had a prediction for next week, what's the one thing that you think will happen, and what's the one thing you hope will happen?
Rome will take the lead in the challenge. So I make that safe prediction that Rome will take the forefront lead in the challenge. One thing I don't think will happen is I don't think an idol will be found.
Okay. I think Tiana's on her way out. I think she's headed home. And I do not think that Andy is going to do well at a challenge.
We made one brave prediction, one safe prediction apiece.
All right, I will let you lead the ship out of here. You know where to plug, where to promote, where to go. So, Steven, the door is yours to close us down, man.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for having me on. Thank you all, everyone, for tuning in. This has been a live Rally Games recap episode of Survivor 47. Don't worry, there will be more episode recaps coming out these coming weeks. If you want to hear about other live Rally Games, I will be sitting down with Jamie River Bourne from Who is the Mole, the live game, to interview them this coming Sunday about their series and everything that goes on behind the scenes. So if you like our content, join us for that this Sunday evening. But other than that, Daniel, thank you so much. And everyone, have a good rest of your night.
All right. Later.